Hello ladies and gentlemen, Teo here, back some more DC Day. Last video was pretty exciting. We got to verify one of my crackpot theories, which is always nice. And we got a sweet sword arm guillotine thing, which is also exciting. Always wanted a sword arm guillotine thing, and now I get to have one vicariously through the protagonist of this visual novel, which is almost like having a real one. That's good enough. And so I carried the unconscious Kasumi back home. I doubted I even understood a tenth of what exactly happened to us tonight. The fog of mystery still remained. A time might come where all was made clear, but it'd be more pragmatic and logical to get what I do know straight, rather than think about what I don't know. That is, perhaps a lesson that I could learn from. So what I did know was the culprits behind the serial killings. It was me, Kasumi, and whoever was controlling us. The being Sakurai and Rusalka referred to as Mercurius. Could he possess others through occult means? Or did he possess some kind of magic to control others with? I had no clue, but anyway, he chose me. And now that I'd become like this, I vowed to at least make good use of it. I wouldn't let anyone lay another hand on Kasumi. I wouldn't let her get involved with this again. Strictly speaking, Kasumi seemed to have killed over a dozen people, but this was no longer a matter that could be solved by simply turning herself in or seeking atonement. This had already grown into a bigger problem than that. What happened to us went beyond the boundaries of what the law or mere common sense could resolve. If I harbored any hope of solving this problem, I had to leave behind common sense. Unless I broke its chains, I could never face off against beings that existed beyond its boundaries. I would cast aside common sense, breaking free of the world I'd been a part of up until now. It was hard to explain with words, but I'd come to realize exactly how I was supposed to accomplish that. Sakurai, Rusalka, Wilhelm, I would drive them and the rest of their soon-to-arrive comrades out of the city. No exceptions. I would rid Kasumi and myself of their sight. Given my current state, that had to be at least possible. A monster against a monster. Irrationality against irrationality, fighting fire with fire. I may not have liked it, but this was unfortunately the only way. That said, I did by no means regret my choice. Kasumi... She didn't need to know any of this. I wouldn't let her go through anything as terrifying or dangerous as that ever again. Again, really bad at the whole, listening comprehension thing. This is exactly what she just spent the entire previous scene asking you not to do. One could call that self-righteous, but I didn't give a damn about justice or morals. Kasumi meant a lot to me, far more than the lives of strangers. I wouldn't let anyone take her. I'd shoulder all of this by myself. All the danger, all of the fear, all the sins and all of the punishment. So she needed to simply take a step out of this world and back into our old one. I'd take care of everything on this side of the equation. She could take that as a promise. I had no intention of letting this messed up situation destroy my world. The reason why I'd live, why I wanted to live, was because... that hopelessly boring yet wonderfully mundane day-to-day life that meant the world to me. I wanted to return to those days, to live in that world. I wanted to grow old and die like any other person. In order to one day return, I would now leave it behind. So I'd really appreciate it if you could keep your eyes closed for a little while.
Ren,
I never thought it would be this hard to make myself sound as normal as possible.
体調平気か？お前いきなり倒れたんだぞ。こっそり酒でも飲んでたか？
私、倒れたの。
ああ、連れて帰るのに苦労した。
そうなんだ。ごめん。
気にするな。
She really appeared to have no memory of the murders. In the end, she was like a subunit compared to me. Now that the power had been transferred to me, she no longer possessed those excess memories. Thank goodness. I could at least be grateful for that. I couldn't let her bear the burden of having to live with that. Well, that's convenient, I suppose. I'd shoulder it all in her stead.
ねえ、なんか、前にもこんなことがあったよね。シロがいなくなっちゃう前に。レン、あの時と同じ顔だよ。何考えてるの？
別に。
It was nothing. No big deal at all. Just something really, really, really stupid. Much like back then.
お前脱がして着替えさせたの俺だから、そこらへんどう言い訳しようか考えてただけ。
Looks like she finally noticed.
バカ、見たな。
悪い。 でも雨降ってたから服濡れてたしな。
I got rid of her bloodstained clothes. I'd buy her the same outfit and put it in her closet, and she'd be none the wiser.
しょうがなかったんだよ。多めに見てくれると助かる。
Man, how, like, messed up would that be? You just, like, come home one day and, like, one pair of your clothes fits differently. Man, that would gnaw at me. Like, the button's, like, a little bit farther to the left or something. And, like, I wouldn't consciously notice it. But, like, in the back of my head, it would eat away at my soul. Man, I guess I, like, just realized for the first time, like, just how viscerally terrifying gaslighting is. Gaslighting is messed up, by the way. If any of you are considering gaslighting another individual, I would recommend not doing that thing. Like, just kill them or something. It's a much more humane thing to do. Oh, that was way darker than I intended it. Okay, new idea. We're gonna keep going in the story, and we're gonna forget that happened.
ありがとう。レンなら気にしないよ。
そっか。
ちょっと恥ずかしいけどね。
Looking at the feebly joking Kasumi's face felt like a dagger in my heart. All my crappy acting did was give her more pain.
もう寝ろよ。それでなんだったらお前しばらく学校休め。
平気だよ。心配性だな。
お前に言われちゃおしまいだ。
Despite cracking jokes, Kasumi soon fell asleep. She looked genuinely exhausted.
安心して寝てろ。
Her nightmare had come to an end. She wouldn't have to worry about a thing.
あとは俺が。
After balling my right hand into a fist, I opened it again. My wound had now completely healed, leaving behind only a strange sensation. My arm felt heavy as steel, but my bones neither cracked, nor did I experience even the duller sensation of pain. I knew, not through reasoning or logic, but sheer intuition, that my arm now sheltered a guillotine. It could decapitate people with ease. And so... a burning sensation of pain flared up my neck, one akin to being cut by a blade. I understood in an instant that it served as the so-called proof of our contract. I ran a finger along my neck and could tell, even without a mirror, exactly what had happened to it. A decapitation scar ran across my neck, the very same mark of the guillotine that the girl had. Seemed like I'd have to cover it with a scarf for a little while.
利用したければ利用してみろ。こっちもそうするつもりだからな。
Naturally, my declaration elicited no response. I was simply fortifying my resolve. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of my life in the world of the extraordinary, and I was determined to make sure I survived whatever it decided to throw my way. Hell yeah, we're on the list, boys! Okay, so what exactly does opening, like, what exactly makes the swastika go from, like, not finished to finished? That I'm a little bit fuzzy on still. Like, is it just a weapon gets a certain number of souls? Is that requirement? Oh, hey, and Spine showed up on the list too. So we're up to, what is this? It's like Cain, Sonikind, and Babylon. The three time travelers, I think, was the conclusion I arrived at. Malleus, Kristoff, Bay, Leonhardt, we already knew about. So the two new ones are, yeah, Spine, who they were sort of alluding to off and on throughout the chapter. So he's going to show up soon. That's going to be exciting. We might get to kill him. And then... That's us! That's us! I know that guy! Number 13, where's Zarathustra? We're going to fuck some shit up. It's going to be great. But yeah, still not 100% clear on what classifies a swastika being finished. But at least we have a pretty good idea of what happens once they all get finished. Mephistopheles shows up and shit goes downhill real fast, presumably. Chapter 3, End of the Nightmare, End. The place was a dark room. No, a dark space. It was not completely devoid of light, but what remained amounted to very little indeed. Yet it wasn't like it stood out as though trying to assert the reason for its existence either. To put it more aptly, it yielded before the sheer power of the darkness contained within the space. The darkness lingering here would succumb to no flame, and remain deep and thick even in the face of 1,000 candles. No mere shadows blanketed the room. The very space itself was dark. The place simply somehow came to possess that property, reflecting the souls of those who would gather here. It was a vast space, shaped like a mortar, akin to a coliseum. Spots of unrefinement aside, the structure did have a sense of splendor to it, resembling a spacious hall within a massive castle. In its center rested a circular table, jet black in hue and glimmering with luster. It housed 13 seats, followed by 13 hallways leading to each. In other words, this place was built for a mere 13 people. 13, a number of ill omens. Judas Iscariot, death in the Major Arcana, Friday the 13th. People commonly said that the Witch's Sabbath was conducted by 13 people. Wait, what's the relationship between Judas and 13? You got like 30 silver coins, right? Was he just the 13th apostle? That sounds plausible. I'd never made that connection before. For it was a most suitable number for preparing a place's spiritual environment. This very same number referred to unity and love within the Gematria. Love and unity that, no doubt, were alien to the situation at hand. After all, those kind of affections were things often manipulated by subjectivity. One could count several vacancies among the seats of the Round Table. Out of 13, only 8 had been filled. The seats in questions were numbered 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, right, because we're filling in for Mercurius. And Mercurius is one of the 5 originally missing. So we are not counted as part of the 8. But our swastika is. So the numbers don't match up anymore, which is awkward. Right? Because from the original 13, 5 of them went in the time travel-y tunnel thing. Which is, again, Punchy Guy, Eye Patch Guy, Fire Lady, Mephistopheles, Mercurius. Which leaves 8 people in sort of like the present day that are like here yet, or could show up at any time. But if we're at 0 out of 8 swastikas and we're filling in spot 13, and our swastika just got finished, then that leaves 9 potential swastikas, which is 1 more than we need. So who doesn't get a swastika? That's what I want to know. The masters of those 8 had gathered, with heavy silence dominating the other 5. Number 13, in particular, exuded no presence to be felt whatsoever. Under normal circumstances, if the master or user in question was either alive or had left some sort of lingering attachment behind, a vestige of their presence, or a fragment of their will, would be felt. In this situation, however, it was as though its master was either dead or had simply never had strong feelings for the place it belonged to. However, that concerned none of those presents. Wait, did they say 13? Yeah. Because, Mercurius, I think, kind of went sort of AFK. And we took its place, but we don't know that this like room exists, so it makes sense that we don't have strong feelings for it. I don't know. It makes sense in my head. I hope it makes sense in all your heads. I can't quite put it into words, but the fact that we are not here makes a whole lot of sense. Like, we're batting for the other team, right?
感じる。
感じる。
感じるな。
The 3 muttered amongst themselves in tones of joy, gloominess, and displeasure. The red-haired girl in the seat of Oct was the first to speak up.
痛い。脇腹がうずくように気持ちいい。ハイドリヒ教の影響が私たちにも出始めている。
ああ、まったく懐かしいじゃねえかよ、この感じ。お前は初めての経験だろうが、どう思う？
ウェレフィリウスティエライステ。これが清掃のステグマなら光栄だが、彼らは
7, 9, and 12. Turning toward the 3 empty seats, Kay threw each of them a glance.
私は団の上位にいる方々と面識がない。狩猟副狩猟閣下のことはすでに十分聞き及んでいるが、幹部お三方については知識不足だ。
7, 8, and 9 missing also makes sense if, or did I say 6, 8, and 9? 7, 9, 12. Okay, I was off even more. So yeah, 7, 9, 12 again makes sense for them to be missing because they are currently time traveling, to the best of my understanding.
今後対面した時に恥をかかないよう、よければ教えてほしいのだが。
Again, just like little things keep bothering me about the QA in this game, like the W in wood here should definitely be capitalized. In response,
ウォルフガンク・シュライバー
Rusalka gleefully uttered one name.
エレオノーレ・フォン・ビッテンブルグ。
Wilhelm casually spat out another.
Getz von Berlichingen.
Finally, Valeria Trifa proudly added a third. Perhaps calling their names held some sort of spiritual significance in this place, for all three seats lit up ever so dimly the moment they were uttered. They glowed in white, red, and black, the three colors that symbolize the Hakenkreuz, which is, I assume, the German flag.
清掃13騎士団最強の戦士であり、ハイドリヒ教の直属でもある3人の大隊長。言うまでもなく恐ろしい方々ですが、どなたも礼を強要する人格ではありません。そうかしこまる必要はないですよ。
Oh, no, that's not the German flag. Doesn't the German flag have, like, orange in it or something? Red, white, and black is either... I don't know what the Hakenkreuz is, but that's probably referring to either original Nazi symbolism or their newfangled, not quite Nazis, but functionally Nazis. Like, whatever the insignia they wear on their arms is.
そうね。特にシュライバーは霊なんて概念自体知らないようなやつだから。
マキナにしろザミエルにしろ、新参者の小娘一人、今さら眼中にも入れやしねえよ。それでも注意することがあるとすれば、一つだけ。
ハイドリヒ教に絶対の忠誠を。我々のスティグマは、清掃に貫かれた証であり、服従の印です。大隊長殿らは、その誓いを我々の数倍強く受けている。故に、破る者を許さない。とはいえレオンハルト、この場であなたにそのような心構えを解くのもまた今更な話だ。スティグマがうずく、血を流す。これはすなわちハイドリヒ教がご帰還なされるという前兆であり、スワスチカが機能しだしたという証です。となれば皆さん、これより我々がなすべきことをいかように考えていらっしゃるか、この場でお聞かせ願いたい。
当然。
Wilhelm let out a snort, as if he found it offensive that Trifa would ask such an obvious question.
条件が整ったなら速攻で発動させる。俺らで片っ端から陣を起こしていけばいい。
そしてベルリンの再現ですか？あなたは血の気が多くていけない。欲求不満が溜まっているのはわかりますがね、ことはそう単純ではありませんよ。副首領閣下の術について我々は知らぬことが多すぎる。もし仮に先走ってスワスチカの一角でも発動不能にしてみなさい。すべてが水泡に帰してしまう。
Yeah, see, that's confusing. There should be 9 available. There should be 9 people with potentially functional swastikas. And it's saying 0 of 8. So, I hope they clear that up at some point. It's also possible that I'm just really bad at counting, but I don't think so. I think 13 minus 5 plus 1 is generally 9, but what do I know?
おい、ならクリストフ、てめえが予言でもしてくれるのかよ。
さて、私に神の声が聞けるとは思えませんがね。あなたでもそのような信仰を持っているのですか？米中尉。
堕落司祭が抜かしやがる。おとぼけはいらねえ。たるいこと言ってんじゃねえよ。てめえはなんだ？俺らを抑えて何企んでる？
企むとはまた人聞きの悪い。私はただスワスチカを完成させる順序を見極めようとしているだけですよ。
順序？
レオン、この手の問題はね、アルスマグナになればなるほど融通が利かないものなのよ。
Please stop making up words. Like, again, I recognize that it's probably either like Latin or German, but I don't know what an Ars Magna is. And as a result, I can't make heads or tails of that sentence.
手順、法則、公式、条件。魔導も科学も思想も政治も、高度なものほど厳格な決まりなしには回らない。 まるでお役所仕事みたいな感じで面倒なのよ、基本的に。どこから一体どのようにどれくらいの規模で進めていくのが正解なのか、まずはそれを見極めないとね。まあレイがイラつくのもわかるけどさ、私だって実際のとこ気持ち穏やかじゃないんだよね。ここ最近誰かさんの命令で半端ばっかり踏まされてさ。
つまらん理屈屋の論理に付き合ってもう60年待たされちゃたまんねえぞ。おいクリストフ、考えてもみろ、思い出せ。メルクリウスの術に穴はねえ。いまいましいが野郎は正真正銘の化け物だったろ。
The darkness in the space began to sway. Each of those currently present had their own ideas in mind regarding those words. For Wilhelm had just uttered something nearing the realm of taboo.
手順法則、ああそれは確かにあるだろうぜ。だが俺らの行動がそいつを壊すって確証は、いやてめえ壊せるとでも思ってるのか。
In other words,
我々の一挙一動例外なく副首領閣下の手のひらの上であると驚きましたね、米中尉。あなたの口からまさかそのような言葉が聞けるとは。
っていうかあなた適当な理屈つけて暴れちゃいたいだけじゃないの？
I mean, in fairness, it does sound like a pretty good excuse.
否定はしねえよ。だがな、
これ以上後手に回るつもりもない。誤差は攻めながら修正すればよいとおっしゃる。困りましたね。
Despite his words, Trifa's lips slithered into a broad smile. The priest may have been thinking the very same thing, surprisingly enough. Or perhaps they all did.
我々ごときが占領したところでことはなるようにしかならず、決まっているものは揺るがない。ならば小賢しい議論などやめ、ただの暴力装置として意義を発揮すればよいと。なるほど。いかにもあなたらしく暴論ながら的を射ている。とはいえまだ残念ながらホロコーストを承認するわけにはいきませんよ。
なぜだ。
ごくごく個人的な事情ですが、その前に知っておきたいことがありましてね。いわゆる鬼の犬間にというやつです。
鬼？あらちょっとクリストフ、今のセリフは不敬なんじゃないかしら？
罰はハイドリ秘境がご帰還なされた後に慎んで受けますよ。ともかくこれはあなた方のためでもある。わがままと取られても仕方ありませんが、願わくば今しばらくの静観を。よろしいですか皆さん。
まあ分かったわよ。あと一度だけあなたの顔を立ててあげる。
現在の最高指揮権があなたにある以上、私も従うまでですが。
結構。それで米中尉は？
いいだろう。
Grinding his teeth, Wilhelm gave a nod.
あんたのことだ。どうせえげつねえこと考えてるんだろうがよ。俺も長くは待てねえぞ。
もちろん数日中に結論が出るはずです。彼も到着したことですしね。
Trifa directed his gaze at the seat of 10. In it sat a feverishly thin, spider-like man with abnormally long limbs. It felt strange, thoroughly peculiar. After all, the other men and women gathered in this place were of exceptional looks. Did they not pride themselves on their excellence, being unmatched in bronze and brain and beauty alike as the elected handful, the chosen few?
どうし諸君。
After having invited all the gazes of those present, the peculiar-looking man rose from his seat, with a sinister smile on his lips.
久しぶりの再会早々恐縮ですが、聖三杯芸家のご意向を尊重するため、しばらくの間私の指示に従っていただきたい。ついてはレオンハルト、あなたに少々協力してほしいことがありましてね。
私に？
ええ、あなたにしかできません。米もマレウスもバビロンも残念ながら役者不足。 カインは初めから論外ですし、増年金とは未だ協力的とは言えません。
Oh, interesting. Yeah, those are the wrong names that I was giving to the extra 3 at the end of chapter list. So Cain and Sonnenkind are actually people present currently somewhere in the world, whereas the blank spots were the time travelers, which in retrospect makes a whole bunch more sense. But makes me wonder what Cain and Sonnenkind are up to. And Babylon.
あなただからお願いする。美しくなられたお嬢さん、返答はいかに？
After throwing a glance rife with suspicion at Trifa, Kay spoke up.
いいだろう。私にできることなら協力する。
結構決まりましたね。
The divine vessel's mouth curled into a confident smile. None of the others vetoed the decision. For the priest's smile rekindled memories of dread engraved deep into the souls of all present save for Kay. The memory of the destructive and absolute smile that belonged to the aberration they knew as the Golden Beast. Chapter 4, Odessa. That is not a particularly ominous title. Like, End of the Nightmare was cool and ominous, but Odessa is not presumably a name that I have enough context to have any strong emotions towards. How many people could place complete and absolute faith in their own ability of self-restraint?
最近はもう綾瀬さんの稽古に付き合ったりしないんだね。
As I entered the rooftop, which had become my staple place of escape, I was addressed by a voice that had also become somewhat a staple of this place.
っていうか君、綾瀬さんと話してる？そういう状況見ないんだけど、別に喧嘩してるわけじゃないんだよね。どうなの、藤井君？
別に。
I gave a half-assed answer and leaned against the fence. I was going to do something like sit next to her on the bench. Never again.
喧嘩なんかしてないですよ。ただ、
何？
ちょっと一人になりたいんで。
Wait, then what is Himuro? Sliced meat?
それはつまり、私もどっか行けっていうことかな。
ええ。
ショック。
She may have said that, but her face was as expressionless as always. By the way, we'd have this kind of conversation every time over the past few days.
私は君を構ってるわけじゃなくて、ただこの場所が好きっていうだけなんだけどね。君はここ以外で一人になれそうな場所を知らないの？
Wow, imagine if there were sandwiches that gave you, or statues that gave you free sandwiches. It would be the best kind of statue.
ええ。
困ったね。
そうですね。
And as we repeated this pointless conversation, all the while avoiding eye contact, the long-awaited bell rang.
お昼休みおしまい。
It was annoying when I got dragged into her flow, but at times like this I felt grateful for it. After all, she didn't try to get in my way of skipping classes. That was the clear difference between her and Kasumi. That said, now I could finally take a breather. Just as I heaved a mental sigh of relief.
じゃあ、バイバイ。あと藤井君、もし寒かったらだけど。
すみません。急に寄ってこられたからびっくりしたっていうか。
ショック。藤井君なんか嫌いだ。
And with that, Himuro left the roof.
くそ。
Please don't slap people. I ended up sitting down where I stood. I felt a mixture of guilt and self-loathing well up in me at once, but I was in no position to go after her and try to ease things up. It had only been 3 days since I put an end to the serial killings. There wouldn't be any more murders. I wouldn't let there be any more. I swore that I'd keep the people around me from getting involved with all this. Especially Kasumi. Since she had no memories of those days, she could continue to live a normal, peaceful life as long as I kept quiet. Sakurai and Rusalka seemed to no longer have any interest in her either. But the possibility of her getting involved again would rise substantially with every minute she spent with me. Still, the bigger problem was... My neck ached like this from time to time. I felt a coiling discomfort, like something tickling me from the inside of my skull through my cervical vertebrae, and I couldn't for the life of me shake it off. Furthermore, I've been getting waves of violent urges billowing within me each time it happened. Just a minute ago, I couldn't take my eyes off the nape of Himuro's neck. This was trouble. As in, seriously dangerous. That was the reason I'd avoid interacting with others, including Kasumi. I had no idea what would happen if I let my guard down for even a second. So my best course of action would probably include running away from home and lying low in parts unknown. I was actually tempted to do just that, but changed my mind before I could act on it. Judging from what Rusalka said the other day, those guys had business with the school itself. Considering she'd been skipping school ever since, with only Sakurai showing up, I figured she might have been full of shit. But I was still really worried. If those psychos did something in this school I wasn't around to do anything about it, I was sure I'd regret it for the rest of my life. The fact remained that I was putting this place in more danger just by being here. On the other hand, I wasn't sure if I could live with myself in case something happened while I was away. So was I supposed to stay or leave? It all came down to that ultimate choice. In the end, I chose the former. Though I honestly wasn't confident that an answer produced from my cornered mindset could be the correct one.
抑え込むのにここくらい適した場所もないしな。
The fact I could picture the worst case scenario here with the utmost sense of reality made it the most likely place where I would retain my sanity, despite the situation. And that was the second reason why I'd go to school instead of hiding. In all honesty, I felt terrible about exposing all these students to such danger with this reckless gamble of mine, but unless I did something, I'd... A text. You've got mail. A certain conviction and anxiety welled up within me. I reflexively took out my phone and opened it up. Sure enough. Stay on the roof until school ends. I'll see you then. Sakurai. To be honest, this was the turn of events I'd been waiting for.
落ち着け。
Muttering that, I did my best to stop myself from shivering.
早く来い。
In my current state, I felt confident I could. Sakurai arrived shortly before sunset.
お待たせ。
I decided not to ask the obvious questions of how she knew my phone's address or that I was on the roof. Asking someone as abnormal as her would have been pointless. The light of dusk on the rooftop reminded me of the sunset in that dream. The place now looked just how it did when Shiro and I had that fight. Jesus, talk about an ominous place and time. Nothing that could happen here would surprise me at this point.
こうした話をするのはあの夜以来になるけれど。なんて愚問か。辛そうね。
Sakurai spoke in a very businesslike tone, her voice exhibiting little to no emotion. Yet even that voice of hers made me antsy. It felt akin to a kind of suffocating craving. I wish I could slice her head off right here and now. That sort of impulse. I was brutally confident that I could very well do it. I had to calm myself. It was not yet time for that. It wasn't?
わかるのか。
ええ。私もそれは経験したから。正直、少し驚いてる。ずいぶん我慢してるみたいだけど、よくないわよ、そういうの。
何が？
ずっと2のままだから。言ったと思うけど、足し算続けていかないと強くなんかならないわよ。
What if you, circumvented the, intended leveling process where you, take one soul at a time, and you just killed the Nazis, and then you took all their souls at once? That feels much more efficient. Can we kill Sakurai and take her souls? That seems like a much better plan than whatever it is we're doing right now.
そのままで勝てるなんて思わない方がいい。
Not yet. I needed to restrain myself. I still had a ton of things to ask her. After inhaling a deep, shaky breath, I spoke up.
勝てると思うなって。お前たちにか。
違う。それによ。ねえ藤井君。少し落ち着いてくれないかしら。それがどれだけ難しいかは理解してるつもりだけど、今のところあなたに対して敵意はないから。
That makes one of us.
信じられない？何も言わないなら都合のいいように解釈するわよ。あなた、私に聞きたいこととかあるでしょ。マレウスよりは親切だって自信もある。彼女と違って日本人だし、年も同じはずだからね。共感できる部分ももしかしたらあるかもしれないし。
年？
そう。彼女はああ見えて私たちの15倍近く生きているから。嘘じゃないわよ。
Wait, it's 300? I assumed she was 80 or something. I assumed that Berlin was the first time around. Huh. Well, that's new information.
バカな。
I could neither laugh nor get angry at that. She claimed to be a witch. Now that I thought about it, she did say something along those lines, didn't she?
どうやら少しだけ落ち着いてくれたようね。それでまず私の方から聞いておきたいことなんだけど、あなたは今私たちを敵視してる？
I mean, you're not supposed to say no to this question, but the answer is definitely yes. Or sorry, you're not supposed to say yes to this question, but the answer is definitely yes.
今の俺が友好的に見えるのか？
見えないわね。
Sakurai let out a mocking chuckle.
でも私が聞いてるのはそういうことじゃない。あなたの誠意の形を聞きたい。防衛なのか公正なのか、つまり買う気なのか売る気なのか。
それは
Honestly, that sounded like a real difficult question. Fight, fight, fight! But I had no intention of leaving them alone, nor did I expect them to do the same with me. In fact, on that night,
お前ら戦争をしに来たって言っただろ
ええ。そして回線はまだ伸びるかもしれないとも。こちらの事情はそんな感じよ。というか、あなたがそんなざまだから伸びてると言った方がいいのかしらね。まあそれは後で説明するとして、まずこちらの質問に答えてよ。買う気なのか売る気なのか。多分あなたはこう考えてる。俺とかすみがお前らのせいでこうなったのなら違うかしら。
I mean, my current mindset is it might be Himuro's fault. But I decided to shelf that for a future date.
う。違わない。
そう。でもね、藤井君。私たちが来ても来なくてもあなたはそうなっていたはずよ。いえ、あなたがそうなると分かっていたから私たちが来たと言うべきかしら。
つまりお前たちがあらかじめ仕組んでたってことだろう。
Sakurai took my glare head on and followed it up with a nod.
ええ。それが何？
なんだと？
The sheer bluntness of her attitude made my mind boil. So it really was their fault that Kasumi... That I...
落ち着きなさいよ。肥大化した公正性とそれに伴う理性の摩耗。
うるせえ。
I couldn't hold back. She was an enemy. Hell, I doubt she was even human. In that case, it'd be fine, right? I could just do it. There was no one else around and be one-on-one. Even her right here and now, I could probably cover up the truth. After all, this wouldn't be the first time I...
ふーん。つまり売る気ね。
A moment later, my back slammed into the wall, accompanied by a shock strong enough to take my breath away and make my ears ring. Man! Why can't we just win? I like winning. I just like this losing nonsense.
なら買ってあげてもいいんだけど。でもその前にもう少しだけお話ししましょう。
Once I opened my eyes, I saw Sakurai's face, just a few centimeters away from mine. She hung over me and practically pinned me to the wall, robbing me of my freedom. From this distance, I could see how surprisingly slender her body was. I felt her heartbeat through our overlapping chests. I sensed a nigh indescribable chill rush up my spine. A frozen rhythm, like still, cold water. An abnormality that even someone like me without medical knowledge, or rather, that was precisely the reason why I could instinctively tell. This was not the heartbeat of a normal human. No way in hell.
離れろ。
どうして？
気持ち悪いんだよ。
失礼ね。
I couldn't move. The part of me that had initiated my motions was being efficiently pinned down, especially my right hand, which was being pushed to the wall by Kay's left. The force she pushed with left cracks running through the wall. No woman, or rather, no regular human could exhibit such strength. More importantly, though,
痛くないでしょ？
that was a real enigma here. My arm was being driven into a concrete wall, yet I barely felt any pain. Why in the world...
麻痺しているわけじゃないわよ。今のあなたのこれが正常な感覚。これくらいじゃ痛いなんて思えない。
In other words, pain was essentially a signal sent to inform you that your body was in danger. There were two primary reasons I could think of why I was not feeling anything, and Sakurai denied the first one, so...
蚊に刺されて痛がる人はいないでしょう。そういうことよ、藤井君。私たちはね、 とても鈍感になっていく。痛みに縁遠くなればなるほど他人の痛みもわからなくなる。だからあなたの気持ちとか私よくわからないの。何に怒っているのか多少はさせられるけど、それもいまいちピンとこないし。そのことを前提にして聞かせてもらうわ。ここで本当に私とやる気？
I mean, I still want to say yes, but at the same time I really don't feel like dying.
あまり思い上がらないでほしいわね。あなたはまだ私たちに及ばない。ああ、それともあれかしら。前にマレウスが言っていたけど。
Unshakable conviction, the prior knowledge of a certain thing, the belief that I was not meant to die here.
違う。
I didn't blindly believe in something like that.
そう。だったらアドバイスをしてあげるわ。言ったでしょ、あなたこのままだと狂うって。
The scar on my neck ached the moment I heard her whisper into my ear, her voice sultry and almost seductive. I felt an urge to kill and devour, to cut off her head, to end her right here and now. Even I could tell that my eyes were starting to fill up with the urge to kill, but Sakurai didn't even seem slightly fazed by it.
殺し役を奪ったのに殺さないなんて矛盾してるわ。ストレス溜まって我慢できなくなってるんでしょ。わかるわ、それ。私たちみんなが通ってきた道だもの。
Sakurai knew the true nature of these destructive impulses welling up in me. She must have gone through them too.
経験したってさっき言ったな。
ええ、今から11年前に。
その時お前は
子供だったし我慢なんかできなかったわよ。もっともそれでよかったと今は思う。これはね、藤井君。
Sakurai looked deeply into my eyes and spoke as if she was whispering to something she saw within them.
あなたの何十倍も歴史を重ねて何百何千も殺してきた人食いなの。20年そこらの人生やモラルで対抗できる相手じゃない。私たちの中でも初めからこれを御せた人はゼロだって聞いているし、実際あなたがどれだけ我慢強いのかは知らないけど。
Pity and self-derision mingled in Sakurai's tone as she continued. But it all lasted but a second, as Sakurai shifted back to her prior seductive tone.
無理しないで。溜まってるなら吐き出しなさいよ。私が教えてあげるから。
I mean, it feels pretty straightforward, right? You just kill people.
お前が
綾瀬さんや氷室先輩じゃ無理でしょ。こんなことしてあげられるの私以外に誰がいるのよ。日本人だし同い年だし、それにあなた好みだしね。大丈夫よ。優しくしてあげるから。
As she uttered that, the grip Sakurai held my right hand and grew stronger. It crushed my flesh and made my bones creak, made it already broken a little while back. But the pain was faint, in fact, felt rather comfortable for some inexplicable reason. A bizarre itchiness ran through my spine, almost like a sign that I would soon shed my skin.
私と戦いたいならその後で。まずは同じ土俵に立ってから。ねえ、どうするの？
俺は
I will. Oh, I get to make a choice. I love making choices. I'm gonna say alright, this seems reasonable. I mean, I don't know if it actually sounds reasonable, but, this is what my guide is telling me to do, and the guide knows all.
分かった。
Saying that, I put my hand between our chests and pried Sakurai off of me. She moved away with surprisingly little resistance.
腕は平気？
ああ
I proceeded to lift my right arm out of the wall. Anyone's arm would have been broken after being put through all that, yet mine didn't even have a single scratch on it. Damn it. I was already somewhat aware of this, but now I had finally become a monster. But possibly due to that realization, as well as the fact that Sakurai overpowered me earlier, my soon-to-explode mental state seemed to have cooled down a bit.
もしかしてお前俺に何かしたのか？
ええ。あなたにその方法を教えてあげる。
どうして？
善意じゃあないけどね。私には私の都合があるのよ。それで確認しておくけど、まだ私のことが嫌いかしら？
好きじゃないな。
But
今のところ売る気は失せた。
素直で結構。じゃあこの続きは夜にしましょう。10時頃に正門のところで待ってるから。
Oh, right. So I was about to comment, like, cool, I wonder if we're gonna get to find out what Kei's superpower magic weapon thing is. Because we already know Bay and Malleus is, right? Bay's is the spears, right? And then Malleus is that, like, weird wrecking ball thing. Like, torture implement they were calling it. And then I remember that, like, from promotional art and PVs and stuff, I actually already know what her super magical weapon thing is. For I suppose the sake of you all who haven't been quite as spoiled as I have. It's not a big spoiler. I imagine we're going to find out in the next hour or so. I will avoid saying it out loud, but that is one surprise that I was excited for that I just realized that I already knew the answer to.
心配しなくてもしばらく抑えていられるはずよ。私の方が異界は上だし、それくらいの強制はかけたから。じゃあ後でね。
And just like that, Sakurai left the roof. As I watched her go, a question abruptly hit me. She might be bad news, but would it have been even more dangerous to keep things going as they were now? And thus, in the end, I came to a decision without even pondering it. I already decided to deviate from my day-to-day life on that night, so I couldn't be getting cold feet now. That's the whole reason I resolved myself. I must have had a calm mind. I must have had a calm mind and be as calm as possible. Must have had a calm mind and be as calm as possible. Yeah, that doesn't quite work grammatically. For that will allow me to deal with virtually everything thrown my way. Or so I thought, but...
ごめん、お待たせ。
What is with the like people of this city and having weird openings in all their clothing items? Like, her jacket has a hole down the middle. Her other jacket has a hole down the middle. She has a weird ass zipper on her like upper arm, which opens into like a hole similar to how the uniforms have. Like, I'm now convinced that like the head artist for this piece of work is like a wannabe clothing designer and also an insane person. As Sakurai called out to me, I couldn't help but feel surprised that she was half an hour late, or rather disappointed.
お前、そんな顔して時間にルーズなのかよ。
ん？顔に何か関係あるの？
いや、それはどうでもいいが。
I just didn't like waiting or keeping others waiting. Kasumi and Himuro were both surprisingly picky about time.
お前時計持ってないのかよ。
ごめんって謝ったじゃない。
On top of that, she was not sorry about it at all.
とりあえず、お前がどういう性格かは少し分かった。それで今日はまともな格好をしてるんだな。
Like, this is their standard for a normal outfit. I mean, I guess the other option is like a Nazi uniform. So by comparison, this is a normal outfit. But that's not a normal outfit. Jackets don't look like that in the real world. At least not in sane person land, where I live. Like, my jackets are jacket-shaped.
ああ、これプライベートだしね。
プライベート？
ええ。夜に同年代の男の子と遊ぶの初めてだし。そんな嫌そうな顔されると傷つくわね。まだ少し殺気立ってるようだけど、いい加減鬱陶しいからやめてくれないかな、そういうの。
Well, you make it sound so easy.
そんなに荒事が好きって言うなら、ベイあたりと変わろうか？
I mean, I would be more on board with that plan if I thought we had any chance of actually beating him. Well, nothing good would come from derailing your conversation now, anyway.
わざわざ2回に分けて呼び出したんだ。説明責任は果たしてくれよ。優しく教えてくれるんだろう。だったら早く始めてくれ。
わかった。じゃあついてきて。
And with that, she walked through the school gates.
けど、なんでまたこんなところに？
If we were going to come back here anyway, why couldn't we finish that conversation on the roof? If she was worried about people seeing us, we should have just waited at school for night to fall. So, right now the only association we have with night is that Wilhelm is bad at dealing with the sun, right? So the fact that she intentionally waited for night, given the information I have so far, implies it has something to do with Wilhelm. But I guess the other alternative is it needed to happen at night because, I don't know, you can pick a reason out of a hat because that way there's no one around and this is going to be, I don't know, flashy and sparkly lights are going to go off and whatever. And she needed some amount of time to prep, which is why she didn't just have them wait. Which is, like, the much more reasonable, like, sane person answer, but based on her outfit, we are well past the world of sane people. So, I'm going to assume it's something weird and Wilhelm related, and I'm not going to be even a little bit surprised when I end up being wrong.
ちょっと調達しないといけないものがあったからね。あと、あなたに考える時間と距離をあげたのよ。家から往復するだけでも乗り気じゃないなら面倒に感じるでしょ。
つまり意図的に二度手間を取らせたっていうことか。
ええ。そしてここに来た以上、もう途中じゃ返さないわよ。覚悟ありと判断するから、ちゃんと最後まで付き合ってもらう。
Man, that's manipulative. Sakurai walked briskly as she spoke.
さて、
After a short while, she stopped about halfway down the hallway.
我慢はできてる？
一応今のところおとなしくしてる限りは。
そう。だったら話を始めましょうか。
And following that casual introduction, she did indeed begin.
まず、あの夜から以降、あなたの判断はおおむね賢明だったと言っていい。
I mean, have we been making any decisions since that night? Like, I feel like our decisions were predominantly non-decisions. So, don't know quite how much credit we deserve for that. By that, she most likely meant the rainy night when I saved Kasumi. According to her, my actions since then had apparently been wise, but...
屋上じゃバカにされてるような気がしたけどな。
だからおおむねと言ったでしょ。過失がないとは言ってない。特に活動以外の生物を理性で抑え込もうなんて選択は愚の骨頂よ。そんなことをしたらよくて発狂、普通は死、最悪の場合は乗っ取られる。
Again, with the made-up words. Asaya is not a word. I refuse to believe it is. I mean, again, I respect that it is a word. I do not respect that it is an English word. Similar to Onanerb. But that one is at least, like, more like a proper noun. So I'm, like, warming up to that one. Asaya is gonna take me a little bit to get used to.
抑えるでも流されるでもなく、その中間を選択して最終的に乗りこなす。乗馬の経験はあるかしら。あれとは何度の桁が違うけど、まあ似たような感覚でしょ。あなた、基本的な方針をかなり間違っていたけれど、評価できるところは、ここを練習場所に選んだことね。
I feel like
そ
she's
れは
like
紛れもなく英断だったと言っていい。
I feel like she's wildly misinterpreting our decision to stay at the school.
学校？
ええ。つまり、非常事態にもかかわらず、毎日登校していたこと。
どうしてってそりゃ。
Because she and Rusalka were at the school, and they didn't know what they'd do in my absence. The rest was a matter of motivation.
ここで暴走したらシャレにならないことになるから、あえて排水の陣。
Yeah, but that was hardly a commendable choice, was it? It was a stupid plan, no matter how one put it. Sakurai made a knowing smile, no doubt having guessed what I was thinking.
確かに。でも、それとは別のところで、あなたは分かっていたのかもしれないわね。例えば、雷があるでしょ？
Alright, I'm thinking about lightning. Zip zap.
は？
What the hell was she on about?
だから雷。落ちたら大変だし、撃たれたら死ぬ。災害よね。そして災害である以上、一定の確率で起きることは防げない。
So, y'all want to be clued in on something horrifying? Something that you'll be able to unhear once I say- Oh, you won't be able to unhear once I say it? Her eyes are like wildly different shapes. It's bugging the hell out of me. And now it's bugging the hell out of all of you too. Y'all can share my pain. Like, Jesus. They're like different shapes, they're like different lengths of- they're like different distances from her nose. Like, something is going on very poorly with her face. And it's like not obvious enough that you catch it immediately. But now that I've mentioned it, none of you are going to be able to unsee it, and every time you see this sprite, you're going to hate me for it. And I bask in your hatred, it brings me sick pleasure.
じゃあどうすればいいだろう。雷が落ちることは防げない。その場合することは個人レベルじゃなく組織的な対抗策として
Kill all the clouds.
飛来神を立てることか。
その通り。雷を特定の場所に呼び込むわけだから正確には由来神と言うべきだけどあなたはこの町の由来神でここはそのアースの一つ。
I imagine that will be a lot more interesting once we get past the analogy and back into the actual meat of the matter, but it sounds interesting.
何？おい、ちょっと待て。
質問は後で受けるからまず聞きなさい。いいかしら藤井君。災害は自然のものだけじゃないでしょ。人災、つまり人の悪意や過失によって起きるもの。経済恐慌とかいう話じゃなくて超自然的な、あえて言うなら魔導、霊的、呪的な災害。京都とか江戸とか聞いたことない？外から役が入り込まないよう地層的に特殊な区画配置を施した町の話を。
Sure, but...
でも言ったように災害を完全に防ぐことはできない。ならどうするかわかるわよね。由来神よ。
Alright, you lost me again.
不幸を意図的にある特定の場所へと流し込む。早い話、餌になる生贄を用意するのよ。未だにこういうことをしている地域は実のところ結構ある。
Huh.
例えば霊道が走っているような町の玄関口に疲れやすい家系の人間を意図的に住まわせたり、彼らは自覚無自覚に関係なく結果として呪いをその身に負わされる。
What?
大勢の人が幸せになるために誰かが貧乏くじを引かされるのよ。これは普通一般の世界でもよくあることじゃないかしら。
You gonna go all ones who walk away from Omelas on me now?
あなたはこの町に起きる災害を清掃13騎士団副首領メルクリウスの再来という大災害をその身に受けるべく用意された由来神、それを指して私たちはツァラトゥストラと呼んでいる。だけどあなたはまだ不完全で自浄作用が低い。現時点で許容量を超える災害に打たれたから周囲の人間を感電させてしまうのよ。そうしないと自分自身が燃え尽きてしまうしね。
I really hope at some point we find out why it was us. Because they ruled out earlier the whole, hereditary thing. So, a little bit confused why it's us as opposed to literally anyone else.
でもそれはどちらもあなたの望むところじゃないでしょ。だからそういう意味で毎日投稿していたのは英断だった。ここは言ったようにアースだし誰も感電させず放電するのに向いている。綾瀬さんとの二人三脚もだいぶ役に立ったんでしょうね。今はあなたが一人で引き受けてるわけだけど合計して都合10日誰も殺さず焼き切れもしない時間を確保できたのは瞠目に値する。少なくとも人命を尊重するなら誇っていいと、こんなことを私に言われても嫌味に感じるだけかしら。
いや、
Even still, the number of people who died, or in Sakurai's words, got shocked, wasn't zero. Kasumi was simply used as a tool for that. You couldn't charge a gun or a knife for murder, so I should have been the one to bear that responsibility. I had to get rid of the source in order to atone. Same went for the disaster Sakurai was talking about, as well as the one responsible for all of them.
私たちが憎いでしょうね。
Little bit, maybe. Her face betrayed no emotion as she said that.
いいわよ別に。好いてくれとは言わないし、そんな必要もないものね。確かにあなたの不幸は私たちが存在しなければ起きなかったことなんだし。だから 元凶を代表して私があなたに教えてあげるわ。生贄の生贄らしさっていうものを。
まるで死ねって言われてるような気がするな。
普通の学生としての藤井蓮には今すぐ死んでほしいわね。もうあなたは私たちの仲間なんだし。
仲間だと？
私もベイもマレウスもそれぞれ種類は違うけど有来神、身に災害を飲んでいる。その使い方を教えてあげるって言ったでしょ。
使い方ね。
There's but only one way to wield a disaster.
殺し屋にでもなれっていうのか？
そんなチャチなものじゃないわよ。けどまあなんであれ拒絶する気はないんでしょ。私の提案、飲まなければ周りが感電していくだけよ。殺意を制御して思考性を持たせること、今のあなたには必要なことじゃないかしら。
一つ。
I pointed my finger at her. It probably would have been for the best not to say this, but I had to.
その思考性がお前らの方を向いてもいいんだな。
望むところよ。言ったでしょ。あなたがそうなってくれないと私は困る。これはゲームよ、藤井君。半世紀以上前に頭のおかしな魔術師が企画した鬼ごっこ。
Well, that sounds exciting.
自分を捕まえ屈服させてみせろ。それができればお前たちに、いや、これはあなたに関係ないか。とにかく私たちはあなたを獲物と思っている。そして狩りは危険なほど価値が高い。私たちの母体になった組織はね、入団の時に槍でイノシシ狩りをしたそうよ。だからあなたには強い牙を持ってほしい。
殺して名誉を得るためにか。
In other words, she wanted to make me stronger so I could become a prey worth killing. What a messed up reason. It honestly made me want to laugh. But now that I'd heard this, there was no turning back. In the end, these guys were my enemies, regardless of what happened. I needed power, strength, and I'd even been granted a weapon. Fighting was my only choice unless I wanted to die.
その顔、承諾したと思っていいのね。じゃあ前置きはこれくらいにして講義を始めようかしら。
Satisfied, Sakurai gestured towards the classroom.
長くなるから中でしましょう。ここ寒いし。
We will continue this
まず
conversation.
あなたが飲んでいる災害の名前を教えてあげる。
Continue this conversation tomorrow, and we can find out the name of the calamity we have absorbed. So I will catch you all then. Hope you all have a lovely day. Peace.